All right, on the subject of dragon legends, we actually have them all over the world. We see them in continents, from South America to North America. We find them in Europe, Asia. Asia is known for a lot of them. Marco Polo was famous for talking about some of the dragons that he encountered when he went to China and kind of described different things there. Now, the dragons that we would typically see out there were more the long, slender dragons, with the shorter legs. Yet you go to places like Europe, sometimes you saw, the four legs, sometimes they were wings, sometimes they were more like the wyvern style where it had two legs and wings. When I was in Leicester, which is part of the Midlands of England, the actual, they have a dragon for the town, which is a wyvern. And I was fascinated by that. And I even went into Wallace Museum, which is, Wallace was an early evolutionist, contemporary of Darwin. And he was from that particular area and has a museum there. And yet you walk in, you walk right over this wyvern, people viewed these things as being real creatures. Some of the others that we see, from ancient history over here in the Americas, they had the Thunderbird, which was a massive flying reptile of sorts that would actually attack tribesmen. They would take little kids, which they hated these things. One of them that was not too far from where I grew up. I originally grew up in Illinois. And if you go up the Mississippi River, there was a huge rock face that had this, they called it piazza bird on it. And this piazza bird was actually a reptile, and its tail looped around and it would fly. And the Native Americans hated it because it would come down and attack and take some of their children. And they finally set a trap for it where they were able to kill it. And they were so mad at it, they painted this big thing up on the rock cliff, and they were known to go up there and throw rocks at it because they hated it for so long. And even some of those legends were, as far as number of states away, where people said, we hate this bird too because of it. But what happened with that rock face actually fell down. They've painted a big bird up there now, but that's just one of the legends that we see. We see old legends from ancient historians. That we saw some Roman records, where they went into different places. One of them, they went into India. One of them, they went into North Africa. Herodotus, an ancient historian, he actually described some dragons that he said that the Egyptians worshipped these things. They actually worshipped the ibis birds that attacked those little dragons. He would call them like flying snakes. And then due to the winds, they would actually blow up from certain areas in Arabia at a certain time of the year. And the ibis like to attack them and eat them. So even though a lot of people really didn't like the ibis birds, he said, the Egyptians would actually worship this bird back in their polytheism days, just because it helped fend off these flying snakes. He said they actually had a venomous a burn-like bite, whether they bit them or whether they would actually shoot this little bits of fire. And that's reminiscent of the fiery flying serpents, which is interesting. Even Moses encountered those sort of things. So we see some of those different examples. I have an entire book called Dragons, Legends and Lore of Dinosaurs, where we actually go through a number of different accounts, and you can see some of these accounts. You can read some of these accounts. What we try to do is put in the actual account, from these different ancient historians to talk about some of these dragon legends. I would highly recommend that book. Myself and Laura Welch, we went through a number of dragon legends. If you ever get the chance to come to the Creation Museum, right when you walk in, we've set up a display that actually talks about a number of different dragon legends. It really is an exciting area. We can't even put them all together, but it is exciting. You might be able to find some in your own backyards in different parts of the world.